Good day, guys. Let us talk about activities in developing speaking skills. This is still under the subject teaching and assessment of macro skills. This presentation is by Anne Lazaraton. She is the author of this particular topic. Um, how are we going to develop the speaking skills of our students? So here are some suggestions. Here are some activities which we can use as teachers so that we would be able to develop their speaking skills or their oral skills. There are many ways to promote oral skills in the ESL/EFL classroom. This discussion centers on the major types of speaking activities that can be implemented. Let us talk about the activities, the major types of activities. Although there are so many activities which we can use for our classes, but here are the general activities which we can implement in our classes. We have discussions, speeches, role plays, conversations, audio taped oral dialogue, journals, or and other accuracy based activities. So we will be discussing these major activities, major types of activities. The first one, we have discussions. Discussions are probably the most commonly used activity in the oral skills class. So how do we do discussions? Um, Typically, the students are introduced to a topic via a reading, a listening passage, or a videotape. So you present them a reading material, you present them a text, a listening passage, or you ask the students to listen to a certain passage or to a video recording, to a downloaded video, and are then asked to get into pairs or groups to discuss a related topic in order to come up with a solution, a response, or the like. So that's the output. You ask after they listened to a certain passage, after they read a certain article, or after they watched a certain videotape. You would be asking the students to go into pairs, to get into pairs, and then discuss a related topic, which will present, which they will present, which will be presented, or which they will present later on. It could either be a solution to a certain problem that you gave relevant to the videotape that they watched, or a response from a question which you had given them. Teachers must take care in planning and setting up a discussion activity. Here are the things that we should remember as teachers. The first one, planned versus random. Grouping or pairing of students may be necessary to ensure a successful discussion outcome. So definitely they will be discussing, they will be interacting with one another as they come up with a solution to a certain problem. So how are you going to do it? Are you going to have a planned or a random grouping or pairing? While there is no one right way to group students, considerations such as gender, ethnicity, background, talkativeness, etc. may come into play. So definitely, you should be careful in how you pair, how you come up with pairing of students, how you group students. There are certain considerations like gender, ethnicity. You know, our students sometimes bullying comes in, and those things should be avoided, and those things should be considered as you come up with pairs and groups for the discussion. The second thing that we should remember as teachers is that students need to be reminded that each person should have a specific responsibility in the discussion. One thing that you should remember, provide an activity, provide a task, a responsibility for every member of the group, whether it be to keep time, take notes, or report results. These discussions can and should be made by the group members. So they would be the ones to discuss who would be doing that particular task, who would be discussing, who would be presenting the results of the discussion, who will be timekeeping, and etc. So that's the second thing that we should remember. And finally, students need to be clear about what they are to discuss, why they are discussing it, and what outcome is expected. Definitely, teachers should tell the students the purpose of the activity, the things that they have to discuss, how they are going to perform the task, and what outcome, what output is expected of them. Okay, so those are the three things that we should remember in coming up with discussion. So definitely, the oral skills or the speaking skills of the students would be developed as when we provide them discussion activities. And the next one, another common activity in oral skills class is the prepared speech. So usually, when we were studying, we experienced delivering prepared speeches in front of our class. Topics for speeches will vary depending on the level of the student and the focus of the class. So definitely, as teacher, you should make sure that the level, the kind of task, the kind of speech that you will provide your students should be appropriate on their age, on their level, and focus of the class. But in any case, students should be given some leeway in determining the content of their talk. So at times, you could also allow students to choose materials which they want to present in the class, or how they are going to present the speech in the class. In other words, the teacher can provide a structure for the speech. It's something that you can remember. You can provide as teacher the structure for the speech. Its rhetorical genre, whether it be narration, is it narration, is it description. You can tell them you present a speech which is a description of something, and its time restrictions. Now, how long are they going to present that speech? Are you giving them 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, while the students select the contents? So the students would be the ones to select the content. For example, asking students to tell us about the unforgettable experience you had. So you can ask them to tell an unforgettable experience that they had. Allows them to talk about something that is personally meaningful. When it's personal, it becomes quite easier for students to express themselves, express their ideas, while at the same time encourages narration and description. So, speeches can be frightening for the speaker. Stage fright comes in. After a while, boring for the listeners. So, it's frightening for the speaker and at times boring for the listeners. So it is a good idea to assign the listeners some responsibilities during the speeches. When the class should be given tasks as they listen to the speeches. This is an excellent time to require peer evaluation, so the students can do evaluation. Their peers, their classmates, can evaluate the speeches being delivered by their fellow classmates. This is an excellent time to require peer evaluation of a classmate's speech. Generally, one or two students can be assigned beforehand the responsibility for evaluating a certain speech. You can do that. Miss Anna, can you do the evaluation for the speech of this classmate of Andrew, for example, using guidelines created by the teacher? So there are rubrics which we can use. You should present the rubrics to the class, how you are going to rate the speeches of your students, with more advanced students by the learners themselves. But then the more advanced students, as mentioned here, you can ask them the advanced students to do the evaluation themselves. So they would be the ones to evaluate how they deliver the speech. Who better to decide what is or is not important when listening to a peer's speech? At a speech's conclusion, the evaluators can be asked to summarize its content, note strengths or weaknesses, or relate the speech topic to a personal experience. So there is a freedom. You give free speech to the students, wherein they would be able to relate their own experiences, their personal experiences. Another activity which we can use so that students would be able to develop their speaking skills is the use of role plays. Okay, it is particularly suitable for practicing the social cultural variations in speech acts, such as complimenting, how they do complaining. Depending on student level, role plays can be performed from prepared scripts created from a set of prompts and expressions, or written using and consolidating knowledge gained from instruction or discussion of the speech act and its variations prior to the role plays themselves. So you can ask the students to come up with their with prepared scripts, which they will deliver later on in front of or in front of the class, created from a set of prompts and expressions. First, a diagnostic assessment is useful for determining what students already know about the act in question. So you can first talk about the issue which you want the students to present before the class. A model dialogue presented orally and or in writing. So it's very important that you provide the students with model dialogues. It could either be in writing or or recorded, like videotapes, serves as language input. So that could serve as language input, after which the class is encouraged to evaluate the situation so as to understand the factors that affect the linguistic choices made in the dialogue. Students can listen to and practice prototypical phrases used in the speech act, so they can also imitate, they can also make use of the phrases or the lines used in the model dialogues, and then perform a role play before the class as a final practice.